First, let me show you a kind of diagram called a flowchart. In a flowchart, you start at the start box, and then you follow the arrows to the other boxes until finally you get to the end box. You can take a different path depending on different conditions. A flowchart is a good metaphor for how the execution can move around your program. For example, this flowchart shows you a decision-making process for what to do if it's raining. You can put your finger on the start, then depending on answers to these yes-no questions, you can move around until finally you get to the end box. Instructions called flow control statements can decide which Python instructions to execute under which conditions. But before you learn about flow control statements, you first need to learn about how to represent those yes and no options. This involves three things: Boolean values, comparison operators, and Boolean operators. Remember, we've already seen values and operators. Here we're just introducing some new ones, but it's the same concepts as before. The Boolean data type has only two values, true and false. Integers and strings effectively have an infinite number of different values. You can just keep making them longer and larger and larger. But the Boolean data type only has these two values, true and false. Like any other value, Boolean values are used in expressions and can be stored in variables. Just be sure to type them with a capital T or capital F and the rest of the word in lowercase. Next, let's look at comparison operators. Comparison operators are used in expressions just like the plus operator or any other operator. There are 6 comparison operators: equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. Expressions with comparison operators evaluate to a Boolean value. So let's experiment a bit in the interactive shell. 42 is equal to 42. This is an expression that evaluates down to the Boolean value true, because it is, 42 is the same as 42. However, 42 is equal to hello, that'll be false, or 42 equals 41, that's also false. You can also check with the not equal to operator. 2 is not equal to 3, that's true. And then also the less than or equal than operators. 42 is less than 100, that's true. 42 is greater than or equal to 100, that's not true. 42 is less than 42, well, that's false, but 42 is less than or equal to 42, well, that's true. Remember, these are just expressions, just like those 2 plus 2 math problems we did before. So that means we can make them as complicated as we want, where we can use variables. Let's say my age equals 26, and then my age less than 30 is an expression that evaluates to true. One thing that you should notice in Python is that integers and strings will always not be equal to each other. So if you have the string 42 and the integer 42, those aren't going to be the same. So even if the string has a number in it, it's still a completely different thing from any integer value. However, float values and integer values can be equal to each other. You might have noticed that the equal to operator has 2 equal signs, while the variable assignment operator just has 1 equal sign. It's really easy to get these two confused, so here's a good trick just to remember which is which. You can always think of the comparison is equal to operator as being 2 characters, just like how the is not equal to operator is 2 characters, the exclamation point and the equal sign. There are also 3 Boolean operators, and, or, and not. You might have used them in search engines, so let's do some experiments in the interactive shell with the and Boolean operator. The AND operator evaluates an expression to true if both Boolean values are true. Otherwise, it evaluates to false. So something like true and true will evaluate to true, but if one or both of these are false, then the entire expression evaluates to false. There's a concept called truth tables that enumerate every possible combination of these two values. So true and true evaluates to true, and otherwise it's false. The OR operator will evaluate to true if either or both of the values are true. As long as it's not false or false, it'll be true. So true or true is true, true or false. The only time that it's false is when both of them are false. Here's the truth table for OR. Everything is true except for false or false, which evaluates to false. And then the NOT operator just evaluates to the opposite Boolean value. Not true is false, and not false is true. So unlike the AND and OR operators, the NOT operator only operates on one Boolean value. So its truth table is fairly simple. You'll often mix Boolean and comparison operators together in the same expression. You can have my age equals 26, my pet equals the string cat. Then we can have a complicated expression like my age is greater than 20 and my pet is equal to cat. This evaluates to true because both parts on either side of the AND operator evaluate to true. And that's it for this lesson. We now know everything we need to start covering flow control statements in the next lesson. Just to recap, the two values of the Boolean data type are true and false. That's with a capital T and capital F. The 6 comparison operators are equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. The equals operator is the comparison operator. This has 2 equal signs, while the single equal sign operator is the assignment operator. That's used in assignment statements like spam equals 42 to assign the value 42 to the variable spam. The 3 Boolean operators are AND, OR, and NOT. AND is true if both sides are true, otherwise it's false. OR is true as long as anything in it is true. It's only false if both of them are false. And the NOT operator simply evaluates to the opposite Boolean value.